Let me share my screen. So here we go. So hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Yep.
Welcome. Thank you, Simon. So welcome everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you are based. So my name is Eckhard Schlappung. I'm the Regional Director for Central Europe at Programmatic. And my session today is to guide you through our topic, which is path to your audience, which is connecting a few dots to what Matej presented before. And I think the guys from ID5 do a good job. And we are happy to have them in our stack as well as a partner. So path to the audience or to your audience, what does it mean for an SSP? This is what I will lay out a bit during my 30 minutes. And maybe if someone doesn't know who Programmatic is, let me give you some stats so that you are get a bit familiar with us. So we as a platform, we reach 1.2 billion monthly unique users. We transact over 100 billion daily ad impressions, and we transact a lot of data. So we're expanding this regularly as we see that everything that goes into digital and programmatic is increasing. So we try to be prepared for that. And still due to COVID, we are actively hiring, and we are a company that is globally active with over 250 plus employees on a global level. To set us in comparison to one or to a few of our market competitors, we are 7 years in a row profitable. We are hiring massively, so OTT, CTV is one of the fields we are investing heavily. So we are putting there 40 people right now, which is coming over sales and also engineering, which is really important. And we will grow on a yearly basis, which we are quite happy to see for us as a company, and still being successful. And we are seeing COVID, even if it's bad, as a challenge and as a chance. Most of it as a chance, as an opportunity, because things are changing. Why is it changing? So the programmatic market is growing, as you know. It's still a challenge because we have different browser environments. We have heard a lot of it from other speakers today as well. And also we see that the content consumption is changing. So it's not new, but I think it's getting more pressing right now because addressability is a topic. And also we see that within the programmatic ecosystem, we see a trend that there's starting supply path optimization, which is named SPO. And that is something that becomes more and more relevant for buyers and also for publishers, because there are specific things that go in line with that will help. Why is that so? Because maybe you personally have realized that during COVID, many things that we have originally done offline have become online. So there are very specific things. So it wouldn't come to my mind to buy potentially an automotive online, but it's happening more and more because the companies have to shift to this new behavior and usage of their consumers, which also means that as it starts to become more digital, the consumers give companies more access to data. For example, one thing that I've realized in the German market that is maybe in other markets much more advanced is that healthcare pharma, so telemedicine, is becoming more and more popular. So there are figured out ways how this can become much more relevant and transacted and used in a digital manner, which is quite interesting because what we see with that is that the audience get disrupted. Why is it so? So consumers are starting in the first step to defining or redefining the rules, how they interact with media, what they do, how they are interacting with brands, completely changing based on these new habits and behaviors. With that, with the additional data points, we coming to the point where data is becoming, again, more and more important to define the winners in this game. Publishers, with all their content, because they have experience in driving content for so many years, decades, they are starting to really understand what they can do with their data. So how they can become more a driver in this game and not let this be done by the platforms they're working with. The fourth point is distribution models have changed, because it's going to the point where it starts to be thought about, okay, where do I ingest the data? Where can I use it? Is it on the DSP side, or can it happen on the publisher side or SSP side as well? Which is something I will come to later. And the threat to ad investment is forcing the change. So there's omni-channel is omnipresent. Because when you look at the different audiences you will have, so between 15 and 25, or 25 to 35, 40, and to older audiences, then you will see that maybe the channels you can reach them, even on digital, are different. So you have to adjust the strategy and how you approach them through which channel. So the difficulties in producing a good ROI, and data can help here, is more difficult than it has ever been. What's one of the situations we are facing, and what we see, and what's always a situation that comes up in this discussion around cookies, demising, and the identities will take over, it's that we have closed ecosystems. And these closed ecosystems, we all know them, it's the Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Apple of this world, have benefits within their walls. And with them having the benefits in their walls, it's the question, what does this give the publishers and the consumers and the advertisers, how they can engage with? Because there's control and other things that happen within there. So yes, there's a benefit of using them, because we all know this. We all have been with it, because some of us is using everything or parts of it. So this is not something we should deny. But there's a situation where others, and also the open internet outside, is starting to think about what can they do to produce things from a data perspective that produce value on their content using other technologies for their consumers and also for their advertisers. So we're coming into a relation between what the publishers do, they starting or should do, and this is what we see and what is becoming more and more some topics and urgent points of the publishers, is they are starting to rebuild direct relationships with their consumers. So they are starting to collect data. So it's about building own audiences, what they can do with them, and all this kind of stuff. The individuals, so the consumers, want to have back control over their preferences. So we see that they are starting at some point to ask questions what they can do. And we see, maybe I can reference to the German market I'm in, with NetID, where we are a member of the advisory board, is that we see how we do this with having this publisher groups combining their forces and really build something that produces a benefit for their consumers, which also then leads to the advertiser that has then a valuable data source that they can use to really start to execute on them and engage with the brands, or make an engagement between the brands and the consumers based on the information they receive from the publishers. So this is something that is really happening, because in the end, it's about having a good connection between an advertiser and their brand and their message, and the consumer, because that's what it's all about, and that's what we are serving. What we see when we look into the ecosystem, and as an SSP, we see that it's at some point only about monetization. So we see that when we think about SPO as a word, that there is a huge number of publishers, so 60% plus, are using more than 10 exchange partners or suppliers to monetize their inventory, or 30% or 27% using more than 20 exchanges, or 5% are even using more than 30 exchanges. So if you can imagine how it is to collect data or execute data on the SSP side, for example, it's pretty complex to do this. So what we see right now in the market, and we are part of it, and on the positive side, because we are included into their tax selections, is that it's going to be reduced more and more and more. And we hear from advertisers and also buyers that they want to work with 1, 2, or maximum 3 SSPs on a global scale, because it's giving them more possibilities to really execute precisely and address their ads to the right consumers on the content they want to use for that. So this is something that is really happening, because in the end, there's one thing that we think that is becoming even in programmatic, and this is a responsibility that we have to look at, is everything and every planning, doesn't matter if it's digital or offline, is based on a purchase funnel. And it really starts from awareness built down to purchase. So the question for us is, what can we do, and how can we support this, and how can we support brands and publishers to increase the effectiveness of the ads they're serving and the consumers they want to reach over this channel. And the thing we have started to build is, which is something that I've heard in my conversations is quite new, which is we've changed the way of the distribution within the data game. So normally a DMP is pushing the data into a DSP. What we do is we have different connections to different providers, and we have connection based on APIs with several DMPs, which is allowing multiple use cases, which can be first-party data from an advertiser, which can also help to drive third-party data, which is still active, but it can also help to have publishers' data ingested into that, or e-commerce data that can help buyers to scale deals in an SSP to really use the deals on the DSP side to scale, which has specific benefits. So first of all, you cut off the step that you reduce the match rates. The other one is that we see that we have 5 times higher win rates on the DSP side, setting up this kind of deals and using audience on the SSP side to deliver specific campaign goals, which is what we think and what our feedback is in the market is really great. And it helps because it opens up new ways. As said, it's a new distribution channel and it offers new capabilities in doing that. And we have several partners that we have already integrated. We started this product almost 6 months ago, but we have really good partners, and we are in talks around the globe in more negotiations. And for example, locally, so as mobile is a big topic, we work with companies like Zeotap on both fields, identity and also on the cookie world. So which is quite interesting. We're talking to publishers, and agencies are starting to consider this for their advertiser first-party data. So what's the benefit is that we see that we have 15% lower fees, so more money goes into media. We're also starting to be prepared for the cookieless future because we are focusing on first-party data. And we have exclusive data that we know that isn't pushed into DSPs because publishers really like the idea and the possibility to have control over the data, because it's still executed through the SSP and their partner they're actively working in, and they can really really control how they push the data to which kind of buyers. Besides that, we see, of course, that identity will be something that will raise, and our goal is in that development that we start to support our publishers and buyers to have a good connection. So we have a solution developed, which we call Identity Hub, which is based on Prebid, which we have, you can see on the right side, which are all the partners we have implemented in this Identity Hub, which then can be chosen by our publishers that can then easily, without integrating with every ID itself, they can use our ID Hub based on Prebid to really select the IDs they want to work with to match with the demand on the buy side, which then can be executed and supported in the way it needs to be. So how can we do this? Because it seems to be a very manual process doing this, having these audiences and doing this, because the normal way that I think most of you know is that the publisher can enable PMPs and execute it with data, their own data, or potentially with other data. But what we have invented is, based on the same data set, we have invented two different UIs. One UI is, of course, the publisher UI, which is shown the actions and what happens on the publisher inventory, but we also have invented a UI called Media Buying Console, which is also based on the same data, but it's reflecting what's happening with the invested money on different publishers on our platform. So it gives buyers full self-service access to execute data in combination with premium inventory to achieve better outcomes, which is pretty unique, and we see good traction from buyers who use this, as it is a good way to have control over the inventory in combination with audiences. So we have and the case is always a good thing. So we have a client with a global provider of search and intent-based insights, which brands in the fields of consumer tech, travel, and financial services is using or is servicing. And they have built up a case which was has the objective to reach greater scale while maintaining full control and oversee their data. So control of data is a huge, huge topic, and we want to service that. And the other thing is to activate specific audience segments on a really specific and wanted publisher list, while they want to have direct access to the wider demand and to scale this. So the results are pretty impressive. So over a campaign that has lasted 7 months, they have achieved an increase of 1,047% by integrating to 68 different DSPs, which is quite interesting because this is what the capabilities of the platform is offering. It gives you the same access as it is providing to normal publisher relationships. And also it produces incremental revenue from 2 global holding companies that haven't been done business with this company before. So quite interesting on what you can achieve with that, thinking about a new way of distributing your data to specific content and publishers. So finally, at the end, so the things that we think that are key to success in this field and in this area is, first of all, which is pretty important, but we sometimes forget it in this very complex omni-channel world, is to understand the media consumption of your audiences and then to plan and sell against it. This is the first point. The second point is, please start to leverage your data to be the center of your audience strategy. So please use it. Please think about what data you're having and how you can execute it. Doesn't matter if you're on the buy side or on the supply side. The third one is experiment your universal ID now to future-proof your business. So now it's the time where you really have to start and test by yourself. So even if the scale is not there, but we have seen that there is scale on specific IDs, that you start to test. It's not looking at others, it's testing and starting to do it by yourself, because this will give everyone who's starting to test now an advantage. And the fourth and last thing is, please start to plan holistically. This is everything that you can control, that is controlled through an ad server. Start to think about how you can use your data to plan it in a holistic way, and what you can do with really supporting that and starting to scale there. So I'm finally there. That was a fast move, but I had a slight delay at the beginning due to technical issues. So thanks a lot for your time. And yes, I'm open for questions, and I will give back to Simon.
Awesome. Yeah, so thanks, Eckhard, for taking us through your presentation. I always like the numbers the most. I think when you were showing the case, I wasn't aware that there is 86 DSPs there on the market. So it's really interesting to know, because you always hear from companies approaching you those big numbers, like companies doing similar things to us, and they're always promising you like connection to 200 SSPs and stuff like that. Yeah, when we know that like a part of the regional SSPs, there is a couple of ones that do good things on global level and have decent demand on global level, like Programmatic, couple of others. Yeah, so it's always interesting to get the numbers like that. Thank you for that. So we have a couple of minutes. So I think two questions. First one, how do you see marketers and publishers changing their strategies regarding their audience addressability in the future? Question from Jasmine.
So it's a very good question, because there are a few things involved into that. Because it's about to have and understand that we have to deliver a true, valuable, addressable audience with solutions that publishers, technology companies will need to spend time to really understand the true value of sharing data, because it's no one can win by themselves. So it needs to be a combination, because no one is as big as the closed ecosystems are. So everyone must have confidence between the parties that data is shared, and it's about the same person. So they need to have an understanding which data is coming in there from which end of this sharing. The other one is that the insights from the shared data sets need to be actionable. So if they aren't actionable, it doesn't make sense. And the actions, it's the third point, need to be provided to brands with the opportunity to really increase sales. So it needs to have value. So this is what I think is very, very important and crucial on that. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
Okay, cool. So the second question from Jacob, I don't know if it'll be clear for you. So Jacob's asking, what's your prediction on where things will go over the next 2-3 years? So it's like a very, very broad question, but maybe you can handle that.
Yeah, it's a wow. So to make a prediction what happens in this industry over the next 2 to 3 years, that's a really bold one. To think about it is, we had a Pub Academy 1-2 weeks ago, and there was one interesting thing that was what will happen within the industry when the third-party cookie fades away. So will this completely change the way how you see or how you plan your media campaigns? Will it change the structure? And we have seen that almost 90% of the people who responded to this poll have said that this will change the way how we plan. Because there is a way that we are used to do things, and there are things where the walled gardens are really, really good in having good data that they can use and that they're leveraging. But publishers and also providers in the ID space and other data providers are starting to realize what they have for opportunities in the future to really drive this forward. So it's a start of thinking that change, that there's coming a change, and the change opens possibilities, because cookieless solutions also provides new opportunities to how to really monetize different browser environments. So to make independent provider or smaller providers that come together in consortia or launch specific solutions like NetID can then be stronger and come together and be as strong as potentially the closed ecosystems to provide some value. So there's a chance, but also there are challenges. So 2 to 3 years is a long time in digital. I have seen a lot of things over the past 2 to 3 years. So it will be fun and very interesting what will happen.